Hello YouTube, welcome back. This is the second segment in my series about Java programming. Last time we took a look at validating passwords and a couple validation rules for passwords. And one thing that I wanted to say about the first video in the segment is when I copied and pasted the code into the video description, it turns out that YouTube doesn't like less than and greater than symbols. So what I did is I went through, like, here's a less than symbol. I went and put it in a box like this, less than, and pasted that code into the description. So if you copy and paste the code from that description, make sure you go back and delete this less than and replace it with a less than caret. Alright, now that that's cleared up, we can get started. What we're going to be taking a look at in this segment is making sure that usernames entered by the user are valid email addresses. So this is the method that I use down here. It's called user check, but I'll go ahead and walk you through this whole program. So starting up at the top here again with the description, this program uses a driver class validate users to get user input from the screen using the scanner. The validate user calls the user check method that checks to see if the entered username is valid. These are the requirements for valid usernames. Usernames can only be letters, numbers, one @ symbol, underscores, and a single period. And this basically guarantees that usernames will be a valid email address. If the username is valid, the result will display valid username, and if not, the result will display an appropriate error message. So go ahead and start right here. This is the validate user. This is just the driver class behind this program. Basically all that I do here is import the scanner, create a string called input username, create a new scanner right here, print to the screen the word username, then I grab the input username by the user, and I call this user check method right here on that input. So really the logic in this program is all inside this user check method, and this is again going to be the part of the program that's reusable and the part of the program that we'll use later on in another segment. So this is the valuable stuff down here. I'll go ahead and walk you through the logic behind this method. So again, it returns a string, it takes a string argument, starts off the result, which is what's returned in the end, is a valid username. I have an int @lock here, and that sets the initial location of the @ symbol to be 0. Int perlock for period location, and that sets the initial period location to be 0. Int @count, and I use that to count how many @ symbols are in the string. And int per count, which is used to keep track of the number of periods in the string. So this for loop is identical to the for loop we use for running through the passwords, and all that it does is starts at 0 and it runs through the length of the entire username. So it runs through each character of the entire username. And this first if statement is almost identical to the one that we used in the password validate password as well. And all that this does is check to make sure that each character is either a lowercase letter, capital letter, a number, a period, an underscore, or an @ symbol. And how this is actually done, in case you were curious, is you grab the characters, so username.char@x, which is where you're at in the string, and it compares it to values on this ASCII table. Every single value has a decimal number that goes with it. So that's how you go about checking, and that's how you go about checking which character you have inside of your string. Alright, so all that we do here is check to make sure, like I said, that they're lowercase, capital, letters, underscores, @ symbols, or periods. And if they're not, we return user contains invalid character. What we do here is find the location of that @ symbol, and we store that location in this @lock variable, which we created up here, and we also count it. And we do the same thing for the period lock here. We use that to store the location of the period, and then we count the period. And then our for loop ends, and what we say down here is that if the location of the period is less than 1's, or the location of the @ symbol is less than 1, which would mean it's the first character in the string, which means the username will be starting off with an @ symbol or period, we need to return that that's not a valid email address. What we do here is if the period were to come before the @ symbol, that also wouldn't be a valid email address. So we return not a valid email address. And what we do on the last section here is make sure that we don't have more than one @ symbol or more than one period, or else that's also not a valid email address. and then we just return the result. So I'll go ahead and do a sample run here. Go ahead and compile, and we'll run this. And we'll enter a couple usernames. We'll start off with one that's not valid, so we'll do maybe 2 periods. Not a valid username. What about one that has a period before it has an @ symbol? That doesn't work either. The only way that it works is it starts off with letters, has an @ symbol, something, so it'd be like Gmail, a period, and then that's a valid email address. So if you think about some email addresses, maybe something like jdavis@gmail.com, that's valid, but a valid email address will be, it'll be this format. It'll be a string or characters followed by an @ symbol, followed by something, followed by a period, followed by something. So pretty similar to the validate password method that we created. It's not too complicated, but now that we have a validate username method and a validate password method, we can go about possibly creating a database in a later video, and this will save us a ton of time when we're checking user inputs. Again, for this video, I'll put this code in the description, and I'll just do the same thing. These less than symbols, I'll put them in boxes and just put less than, so you know to replace these. And that's the same thing for these greater than and equal to's, less than and equal to, and that's about all. So thank you for watching. I'll continue to work on this, and if you have any questions, post them in the comment section below. Other than that, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, guys.